I like that, man.
So, over 20 years in the music industry, right? Produced for over 100 different artists. When was that moment when you decided you wanted to produce, right? And how did that come about? Just share with us like how that initially came about for you.
Everything for me happened really, really young, man.
Mm.
And I think, again, my love for music and hip hop, to be specific, was everything. So I started rapping. That really wasn't really working out, but I was playing drums, and just the rhythm part of me was just dope. And shout out to Buck Wow, another legendary producer in the game that's produced hits for Big and Faith and 112 and Jay,
Buck Wild.
and Buck Wow, legend from the Bronx. I said, why don't you produce? So you get more money producing. You could be behind the scenes, man, and just you already play the drums, so you got the advantage. Why don't you produce? And I was like, what's produce? And he's like, that's when you like make your own beats. And I was just like, all right. So my mom called him one day. He picked me up, took me to the studio, man, and it was kind of like a day in the life of a producer. And he went to various studios. And he met with Busta. He met with Rest of Soul, Black Rob. He met with Missy, I think LL Cool J. And he was going around to different studios playing beats. And each artist would pick out the beats they love, start writing on the spot. He would leave, go to the next spot. And this was happening like all day. And he dropped me off at the crib and he was like, what you think? And I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. And I probably was like 15, 16 years old, bro, when it was that moment for me. And I just knew it was something that I wanted to do. And after I made that decision, like, that's all I wanted to do, bro, was make music, create, make beats. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I ain't care about having no girlfriend. I ain't care about hanging out. I ain't care about being outside no more. It was just like, just want to be in the crib, making music. So that was the defining moment for me.
But was that in that moment when you're seeing this happen, it just instantly becoming like a desired passion of yours, or you're not thinking about like necessarily money, fame.
Yeah.
You're just thinking purely like I'm in love with music already.
Absolutely.
And I'm just gonna this is what I want to do for a long time.
And I love that you brought that up because at that age, I don't know anything about business.
Yeah.
Right.
So for years it was just passion.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't really get into the business until I was like 18, 19 years old of really understanding like, oh, wait a minute. Like this is a lifestyle. Like this is a business. Like this is I can have a company and I could survive and live off of this and take care of my family and feed my family doing this. So I love the fact that you brought that up. Yeah, and I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
And my parents, was kind of frowning upon it at first because they didn't, they from the church. You're gonna do what? A hip hop producer? What is that? You're gonna go to college? You're gonna go to school? And it's like, nah, I won't do this. One day, I never forget it. My mom was in a room. And MTV came on. And remember MTV Cribs?
Yep.
Yeah.
Swiss was on MTV Cribs. And she watched it. And I remember her calling me to her room. It's like, come here. Came in her room and she was just like, that's what you do? And I was like, yeah. And she was calling him. She calls him Swizzle. It was bad funny.
The Swizzle.
That boy up there talking about he make music, he make beats. He got a big house. He got a lot of cars. I was like, exactly. She was like, this is what you were saying? I was like, yeah. So from a business sense, that was a moment for both me and my mom because she recognized how big it is to be a musician and to be in the music industry because she didn't get it. She didn't understand. And I realized it as well from a business sense, like, whoa, he got that from making music and making beats, which is what I'm doing, or was on. And that's when I tapped into the business side of things and really having an understanding of what it is. And I love that. I love this question because it's so powerful, right? Where my why started out as strictly love and passion, as well as this is gonna get me out of this environment,
Right.
possibly. This is gonna keep me out of trouble. This is gonna keep me off the corner. This is gonna keep me from being killed, God willing. This is gonna keep me from going to jail.
Right.
It's a yes when I say I want to go make music. It's a yes when I say I want to go play drums in church or school or do anything music related. It's a yes. It's a hard no for everything else. So at the same time, it was my outlet. It was my way out. It was my way outside.
Yeah.
And I didn't take advantage of it. I really did that. And, because I wanted to be the best that I can be in that area.
And one more thing before I let you go, Deez, like I really respect that because in today's day and age, people are so enamored with instant gratification, right? With anything they do, whether it's music, whether it's, they just see whatever on Instagram or social media and they think, oh, well, that person, is flashing off what they have and they just got it just like this. But that's not the case, right? Like, you mentioned you were I'm assuming 3-4 years of not getting paid or not doing anything, just soaking up the game of knowledge.
6, 7.
Yeah, and that's okay. Well, dang, and that's a lost art these days, to where you're just soaking up genuine game, and then you can go in and act on it to then capitalize down the road. So I just want to acknowledge that, because that's something that we've talked about with just us, and then we had another guest on. Shout out to Bash when he talked about interning and styling for different stylists, excuse me.
Got you.
And so I just wanted to acknowledge that, because I think that is kind of lost in the sauce these days of putting that work in, really learning, and then getting to the money.
Before you go, I love that, right? Because it allows me to think about what I call, or what we call, shooting in the gym.
Mm.
No one from a professional level heard my music for years, bro. Because I didn't feel like it was up to that level yet to even be heard.
Mm-hmm.
I respected the game so much, and I respected the colleagues and my heroes that produce music and create music. It's like, now I'm not just going to jump into something and then be like, hey, listen. Nah, I shot in the gym for a long time, right? And then to add to what you were saying, the internet didn't exist for me back then.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So I didn't have the distractions or knowing like, okay, we had MTV Cribs and we watched music videos to see the glitz and the glamour that come from it, right? But that wasn't my why.
Yeah.
Right? So when you fast forward to today, where you have social media and the internet and YouTube and all these different things, and people being aware of what you can get and what you can get out of it, like the whys is so different today. Not for everybody, but for a lot of people, it's like, I want to be a star. I want to go viral. I want to be rich.
Yeah.
That was never my why going into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you deal with all of the ups and the downs and the pitfalls and the potholes in the road, you respect it and you appreciate it, because this is all part of the journey, versus saying, oh, I didn't know I was going to have to deal with this. I didn't know you can possibly be broke. I didn't know it'll take X amount of years to not get a check for making beats. I didn't know you had to give beats out for free, like, in order to get to that point.
Right.
So they skip so much of these different levels. There's not as much appreciation for when you arrive. Because for some, it can feel like it's an overnight success. Or it may be an overnight success. You have a record and boom, you're there, you're hot. Nah, bro, I've been shooting in the gym for years.
Yeah.
Right? My peers, my competition were my heroes. Because producing wasn't the thing to do back then. It wasn't popular, bro. Like, it wasn't, Pro Tools and Logic and all of these different, you buy a computer. Nah, bro, I had to go buy MPC. MPC is $1,300 and then come with no sounds. I had to go sample my sounds. I had to go make my sounds. That keyboard, the Rolands and the Phantoms and the Motifs, bro, them joints was $2,500.
Yeah.
You're not doing that, right? So when you fast forward to today, where you can get all of these sound packs and different things, and you buy, Logic, and Logic is coming with 5,000 sounds, and everything is being handed to you, bro. It wasn't being handed to us back then. We had to create. We had to go get that for real. We had to build it from scratch, And I'm not saying that to shade anything that's happening right now, because I love where technology is today. But you have to go back and respect the kings that came before and the queens that came before that didn't have all of what people have now, and we made it happen with that. So imagine if we had the technology that existed today back then.
Yeah.
It'd be crazy. But I love that. I love, where I come from, man. And I love that I had to really put that work in and really work hard from scratch and build nothing, into something to be, where I'm at today.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, man, you was dropping hella gems, bro. Yeah, I just like the fact that you was talking about like how you had to give the beats out for free, and it was little money, right? I spoke to a friend not too long ago who who freelances as well, does work in the creative space, and one thing they told me was that as a freelancer or as a business owner, like there's always gonna be periods. It doesn't matter if it's your first year or your 5th or 10th year where you're gonna be doing pro bono work. Where you're going to be doing work where you still sending stuff out for free, or you still handing out favors, and you still, it's because it's still about the grind.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Obviously, like, as time progresses, you'll continue to grow the brand. The capital will come, but in that same space, you'll like always have to find some way to do pro bono work just to get ahead, or just to get in the door that you want to get into.
Absolutely.
Right? So what I really wanted to ask you, because we all know, like, I don't work in the music business, nor does JB, but we know it could get a little tricky sometimes. Music business, you hear it all the time. It's not what it seems, or so on and so forth. Has there been any moment where you felt like you had to put like your boundaries and what you stand on in place in front of the like business that was going on that you didn't necessarily agree with?
Love that question, bro. My whole journey is that, right? Because growing up, I was always called the church boy.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel good about it. I thought I didn't like the title, because I know it was so much more behind it and behind why I was there every Sunday. And I know what spirituality and me building a relationship with God has done for me. You know what I'm saying? So I know it wasn't the coolest thing on the block and in the hood to be, but I'm grateful, to be a church boy, because look where I'm at today. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that was the foundation. And I think that set me apart from a lot of different people within the business and within the industry, right? So, I wasn't no hood dude. I was from the hood, but I wasn't no hood dude. And a lot of rooms I've been in, a lot of studio sessions I've been in around some gangsters, bro. I've been around, some cats that are really about that life, that are really street dudes, you know what I'm saying? With entourages, ain't no telling what was in them rooms, man. But God has always kept me covered and protected. And I always had an aura and an energy about myself. Yeah. Like I'd never walked in fearful. When I left, I was like, whoo. But walking into that room, bro, I walked in that room, one, knowing I deserved to be there and I belonged there from a musician and producer standpoint, because I was there. So it's a certain level of confidence you have to have. But then I also walked in with a level of spirituality that just had that, just had that covering over me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that was very important and special to me. And that guided me along this journey, bro. Like, it's a lot going on in the game right now. There's a lot of things that's going on with people in the game right now. People that I've been associated with, people that I've been in the presence of, man. And I used to always wonder, why I ain't get invited over there? Why I wasn't on the list for that party over there? Why I ain't get invited to the private joint?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And when I think back, and I remember, last summer being in my backyard and shedding tears, and I never spoke on this. Shedding tears about and being grateful of where God has kept me from. You know what I'm saying? We always talk about, being grateful for where he's brought us or the rooms that he put us in. But it was a moment of me being grateful for the rooms that he kept me out of.
Right.
That's real.
Me thinking I'm not cool. Me thinking I don't got enough swag. Me thinking my drip ain't enough. Me thinking I ain't popular enough. Me thinking I'm not dope enough to be in those rooms. Whole time God was just like, you don't belong there, son.
Yeah.
And seeing, a lot of what's going on in the world today, a lot of people in trouble, I'm like, okay. So that's always been my foundation. Am I perfect? No. Far from it. But I carry myself in a certain way, in a certain manner that demands the respect of the gangsters, that demands the respect of the trappers or the street dudes or the dudes that are in there with 50 dudes and 50 goons. It's like I walk in a room and it's just a level of love and respect and support that I've always gotten as a little kid, producing still to this day. You know what I'm saying? To the point where some of the toughest dudes or some of the most street dudes turn into a whole different person when they're in my presence.
Right.
And I'm not saying that any from me. That's not me. That's the God in me to just show them like he ain't the one. That's not the one we mess with. That's not the one we disrespect. That's not the one we play with. And again, to be clear, that's not from a street level. I'm not talking about from a street sense.
Yeah.
I'm talking about from a spiritually.
Spiritually.
He ain't the one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I've always been, how I've always moved. There's some rooms, like, again, that I've never been able to go into, man. There's rooms that I wanted to go into that just God was just like, that ain't for you. And I'm grateful to be able to be sensitive to the spirit and just have that spirit of discernment in regards to people, places, and things, and just knowing where I belong and where I don't.